What is up, everybody, and welcome to another Flashpoint team interview. I have the absolute pleasure of being joined by Sonic from Cloud9. So, first of all, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join me today. I kind of want to talk a little bit about Phase 1, because it was definitely a high point for the team, obviously finishing top of your group. Are you proud of how the team performed in that phase?
Yeah, we're pretty happy. It's nothing short of what we expected. We expected to top any group we were kind of thrown into. Um, but obviously, some of the teams were actually playing pretty well in our group. We probably had one of the hardest groups. And at times it kind of looked like we would lose out in the matches. But I'm pretty happy that our team managed to pull through and get the wins that we needed to get. Going into phase 2, I think we started off a bit rough, but hopefully we find our footing in the next games to come.
Yeah, I kind of want to just touch on the teams in your group for Phase 1 briefly. Were there any kind of surprises in terms of form of some of the teams?
Oof. Probably Orgless. I think that's one team that everyone kind of didn't expect to perform that well against the teams, especially in our group, because they're a relatively new team, so you wouldn't expect them to have the form, to have the strategy, and whatnot. But obviously they have FNS as their IGL, and he did a pretty good job at sort of like that's Ricky's favorite player. But yeah, I think FNS did a great job with that team and just pulling the players together and just creating something of them. And they had a really good showing, and had a really good showing against us. But I think we were just stronger at the end of the day.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, August definitely one of the teams that did more than people had perhaps anticipated coming into this.
Yeah.
I also just wanted to touch upon the fact that Taco originally swapped you out of your original group. He swapped you with Chaos. Do you kind of take that as a compliment? Are you thinking that MIBR are
Yeah,
kind of scared of playing you?
I think MIBR are a bit scared of us, definitely. But they're great guys. I love them. My team loves them. But yeah, I think they're pussies. But we'll meet them in playoffs. I'm pretty sure.
But just delving into your games from that first phase a little bit more, obviously the first game that you played was against Fun Plus Phoenix, and I want to talk about that a little bit more in depth. On that second map train, you had such a good like a T side, the start on T side, but it ended up going to 59, and then they took it to overtime. You did end up closing it out, but what kind of happened in the moments between you hitting that 59 and then them taking it to overtime? Do you think there was sort of a mental block for you guys? What were the issues there?
Um, like I've kind of said before, I think we're a team that's really good at throwing away our leads. I think the pressure maybe just creeps up on us a bit as a team since we are quite young. Some of us are kind of inexperienced on LAN and whatnot. I think I think that game was LAN. I can't quite remember.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Yeah, it was LAN. Yeah. So So I think it's just a little bit of an experience, maybe just learning to deal with the pressure a bit better, not looking toward the end scoreline, just focusing on the current round at stake and focusing on the process, of which we didn't do, and we kind of let it slip. But once it hit that overtime mark, we kind of hit a reset switch and just kind of treated it like a new game. And we could kind of feel the click, and we just basically dominated them in the overtime.
Yeah, was there a particular turning point in overtime where you sort of, as you said, kind of had that switch and knew what you needed to focus on to close it out?
Yeah, I definitely think there was. Like as soon as the overtime came, I think there was like a bit of a freeze time where coach TC kind of just said something to us, and it kind of hit that like reset switch as you're talking about. Um, and we just managed to turn it around and treated it like a new game, and it basically came out guns firing.
Yeah, because I mean, going on to that third map, Inferno, I believe, you look like an almost entirely different team. You closed that out 16-3. What were kind of the differences coming into that third map? What were you focusing on differently, or was it just the map you were feeling more comfortable on?
Yeah, so I think we were a lot more comfortable. Just because it was later in the game, I think we just felt more comfortable as a team and just a lot more confident, especially considering it's Inferno. It's like one of our strongest maps, and it's just a map that we've done so much work on, like just in our entire um, previous lineups and rosters, especially just me and JT. Uh, so it's literally one of our strongest maps. I think we play instinctively on that map more than we do on other maps. So I think it flows better, like with our team dynamic and whatnot. So yeah, it feels like second nature when we play Inferno. So yeah, it just went our way and just completely dominated them.
But you also went up to face Dig, who are a team with a huge amount of experience. There's so many veterans on that lineup. But of course, they do have a stand-in. It is Guardian, obviously another player with a huge amount of experience. But do you think that that kind of contributed to the result that you managed to gain over them? Were there more holes in their game plan than you expected?
So Dignitas is a pretty new lineup as well. They do have experience on their side, obviously, with some of the players you'd consider legends on their roster. I don't think Guardian's all that bad of a player. I think he's a good player. He's definitely has some accolades like under his belt and stuff. But Holzerk is, I'd say, one of their strongest players. So it was kind of unfortunate that they didn't have him in the lineup. But I don't think it would have made that much of a difference because I felt like we outplayed them in terms of strategy and game plan wise, not skill wise, you know. So yeah, I don't think it would have made that much of a difference if they had their full lineup.
Yeah, it's interesting that you know about the sort of preparation coming into a game because the last teams make up your group for Phase 1 was Orgless, which is a team that not many people know much about. Obviously, they sort of rose through the Pinnacle qualifiers to make it to Flashpoint 1. How do you guys as a team kind of prepare to go up against a team when there's sort of barely any history of them and hardly anything to go off? What's your kind of preparation plan for that?
Well, we kind of just expected more of what FNS has to offer. You know, he's had a lot of lineups in the past, and we've had a lot of scrims against his teams in the past. And to us, they all kind of play the same since they're under the same leadership. So we just kind of expected more of the same with this lineup in terms of their play style. Kind of gambly, I'd call their play style. They gamble a lot and they don't really play for information all that well. So we kind of just built our game plan around that, and yeah, just expected more of the same of what we've seen in the past, and mainly focusing on playing our game.
Yeah, I mean, do you feel like there's sort of a certain aspect of there being a bit more of a rivalry? Because they're obviously yourself, you're from South Africa, but your class is a North American side. But going up against teams like that come from North America, that have those sort of staple names, do you think there's a little bit more of a rivalry going on?
Yeah, definitely. I think especially for Ricky and Ian, Modem and Floppy, I think they definitely have a bit of a rivalry with some of the players on that team, especially FNS.
Yeah, fuck them.
So
Passive aggressive motherfuckers.
So yeah, not so much for me. I don't really mind who I play against. I don't really have like except for Envy, that doesn't count though. But yeah, I just kind of treat every game as the same. You know, match is a match. I'd say it is a bit more personal for the Americans, but yeah, for me it's just another game.
You kind of alluded to it earlier. I was going to say one criticism of the team, but it's not really a criticism because you can't really help it. It's just the age of the team. What your average age is, what I believe, 20 in the whole squad, which is incredibly young when you look at it. Obviously, you guys are incredibly skilled, but would you agree that sometimes the average age of the team means that you have a bit less experience and means that you're sometimes on a back foot going into some games?
Yeah, I definitely think there's an experience factor, especially if you were to look at high tier games, right? If you're going up against like the best in the world, experience definitely does play a factor. Whether it be in nerves, like keeping it cool, decision making, you know, whatnot. But it doesn't mean that we're not any less individually skilled than these players. You know, but I think it's great that we are in the scene at such a young age because it gives us a lot of time to sort of grow.
Yeah,
And
100%.
I just think it, you know, if you give us like a year or two, I think we'll be on the same kind of level as what those teams show in terms of resilience, big match temperament, whatnot. You know.
Yeah, I think
So
that's incredibly exciting because you guys, even then in a year's time, you'll still be such young players, and having that experience under your belt will definitely help. Is that kind of something your age? Is that kind of something that you've been conscious of as a team, and is that something you've been kind of putting work in towards? Not letting it necessarily like tilt you if something happens and you haven't got that experience to back it up.
yeah, definitely because we also have our coach TC,
Mm.
who we kind of consider our dad. You know, he's also a medical doctor, and
Oh
he came
wow.
with he came with us back in the Bravado days to come over to America and sort of chase this thing. And he's just been a real good figure and sort of grounding mechanism for us. You know, he's just really smart. He does a lot of research and stuff, especially on sports performance and whatnot like that. Plus, we've also had our experiences with sports psychologists and things like helping us. So, yeah, I just think we are working on that constantly and learning new things and constantly learning in that field. I just think it's purely about time and experience. You know, just the more LAN games we can play, the better.
Yeah.
Uh,
On the other hand, there's also something to be said about younger teams in the fact that you sort of soak up things quicker. You don't get into those habits that sort of, as the saying goes, old habits die hard. What are the things you've kind of learned? Obviously, you guys came from that 80k lineup into Cloud9 earlier this year, and it's been a few months you've been under the organisation. Are there any sort of big learning points that you've had since you joined the org?
Yeah, I think there have been some key moments throughout our careers where we realized things. One would have to be when we first moved to America under the Bravado banner. That was definitely a big learning point for us because we had never been exposed to this kind of practice environment and the kind of teams you practice against and the way they practice. So that was a big change in terms of how we practiced Counter-Strike and especially how we played. We changed our gameplay style a lot more, you know, because we obviously played a different version of Counter-Strike living in isolated South Africa.
Yeah.
And then another big turning point was when we brought on the American players onto the roster, when we sort of formed this 80k soon to be Cloud9 lineup. It was a kind of mixture, because obviously you're seeing a lot more globalization in Counter-Strike in terms of players being international. You know, a lot of players are from the same country in teams nowadays. A lot of players are from different countries, sometimes even speak different first languages, you know.
Yeah.
So that was a big change, especially since we're so young. It was quite interesting, and I think it was probably the best thing we could have done for ourselves is have a sort of mixed lineup, you know, having Americans play with South Africans. So that was pretty big, and it molded pretty well to become the Cloud9 lineup.
Yeah, 100%. Just something else that we sort of have seen previously, not necessarily coming into this series in Flashpoint, the sort of murmuring of sort of Cloud9 LAN jitters, if you will. But obviously, the games that you did play on LAN, you won here at Flashpoint. So do you feel that you're beginning to sort of prove that wrong?
Yeah, I definitely feel like we're starting to prove that that wrong. Like I said before, I'd also like to have more LAN opportunities to sort of garner that and to prove that true. You know, I think we're doing a lot better than when we first started sort of playing LANs, because obviously we did pretty well at our first showing at I think it was Pro League, and then also at Pro League finals where we beat G2 at North.
Yeah.
I think that was a really great LAN performance for our team. But then following that, we played at Katowice and Leipzig, and we didn't do too well, and not as well as we had hoped. But we were doing okay. Not as great as what we previously showed, you know. But coming into Flashpoint, we sort of set it as like a goal for ourselves to sort of prove that wrong, and just to kind of keep our focus, keep grounded, and just to play our game and not sort of let the pressure get to us and not let it force you into a different sort of play style. Because often what you see in teams is when you come to LAN, you tend to play differently, you know. Whether it be because you feel like you need to do something more in order to win the game, not just your usual sort of like team play and stuff. So we're focusing really hard on just kind of translating our online play into our LAN performance and trying to play the exact same way. And I think we did a pretty good job at Flashpoint 1 and Phase 1 in our LAN matches that we did play. So.
You kind of spoke about you stated that you feel that your Phase 1 group, Flashpoint 1, was definitely one of the harder groups. So coming into Phase 2, looking at your new group, what are you kind of making of that?
I think Phase 2 was a bit of a better group, and I think it was a bit easier. I say that now even though we lost our first match, but won't go too much on that. I think we were lagging a bit, and it was a mess. So I don't count that game. But yeah, just we are going to play from the face offices now, so that should all
Okay.
be fine. But so for our future games, I think we're well prepared. We're doing the work, doing our research on the teams, and solidifying our game plans. So yeah, you just have to wait and see. We're quite confident, and we'll put up the results.
I know that you said it's a bit of like lag issues going on with that MV match, the first match, but was there anything else that you kind of had sort of as struggles internally within the team? Is there anything you kind of took from that opening match of phase 2 and you're going to be improving on for the next matches?
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, we have our sports psychology sessions, and there's one thing in there is obviously your controllables and uncontrollables. Controllables being the things that you can control in the environment, and the uncontrollables being the things that you can't control. And unfortunately, lagging in one of them is one of those issues.
Yeah.
And so we just want to be better as a team in terms of not letting the uncontrollables affect our game. And we did let it affect our game. It's a little bit difficult not to, because it's kind of part of the game. But yeah, just focusing on that and just kind of keeping our cool.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Sort of speaking about the sports psychologist. So, what kind of role does he have within the team, and sort of how regularly do you use him?
So our sports psychologist's name is Gary. Previously, we had a different sports psychologist on ATK. His name was Clinton. He was really good too. And luckily in Cloud9, he's kind of available to us whenever we would like to speak to him. So we kind of speak to him on like a weekly basis. And if we want individual sessions, or maybe something's bugging you, or maybe you want to talk to him about the team or something like that, you can actually talk to him any day of the week, anytime, within work hours, obviously. But yeah, so that's a pretty big resource to have as a team. Someone with that experience and background. I mean, he has like 20 years in the Navy SEALs, right? Because he did a lot of like military psychology for the Navy and whatnot. So he's a really big tool and a really big asset, and it's great that we have him.
Yeah, that's definitely amazing to have on board. In terms of sort of the wider competition, are there any teams that you're looking out for a bit based on the current form so far?
Definitely MIBR. I did call them pussies
Okay.
earlier on in the interview, but they looked great in the recent game. Someone even made a comment that they look like a 2016 MIBR, which is scary to think,
Yeah.
in the dominated form, even with the different lineup. So yeah, I'm actually just excited to play them. It's always great to play the Brazilians. I love them and I love their scene. So
Yeah.
that's one team. And I feel like we might meet them in the finals. So be it if we make it there.
But got a little bit of trash talk already. But I also want to know which teams haven't lived up to expectations so far in the tournament. In your opinion, there's no hard feelings here.
I'd have to say Mad Lions.
Okay.
But obviously they made the change with the IGL just before Flashpoint.
Yeah.
And I think they hope to do a lot better than they are doing. And we're also good friends with some of the players on their roster. So yeah, I think they're a team that's capable of much more. I felt like they were even the second best Danish team when they had 100 on their lineup.
Yeah.
And now I think they're just falling through the cracks a bit, trying to find their feet. So yeah, I'd say them.
So in terms of obviously the team's goals, everybody's going to be saying they want to go on and win this first season of Flashpoint. But just for yourself personally, are there any personal goals that you have that you want to have achieved by the end of this season?
I wanted to beat every team in Flashpoint, not lose a single game. But obviously we moved to online, so I don't count the NB game. And other factors, obviously. So yeah, I think if it was LAN still, I would say that I felt like we didn't want to lose to any team. We want to just have a clean streak throughout the whole tournament. The new goal now is probably just to own NV in playoffs if they make it.
Nice. Okay. Well, I look forward to that if that happens. And thank you once again for taking the time out of your schedule today to join me. It's fantastic to speak to you, and best of luck for the rest of Phase 2.
Thanks, Freya.